Now, this plague today is interesting. God just kind of hits Pharaoh with it out of the blue. There's no warning that it's coming. And I think that's because the last plague, he said he would let the people go and worship, and then he took it back. So God just kind of smacks him in the head with this one. And now what's interesting here is some translations of the Bible would call this the plague of lice. Others will call it the plague of gnats. And I did some digging into the Hebrew on this and looking at it. And gnat, I think, is the proper term. It kind of appears that it's a tiny swarm of, flying bugs that just infest you is kind of the overall thought. Not necessarily, what we would think of as necessarily traditional lice from looking at the Hebrew. Maybe, you could read it in that fashion. It doesn't necessarily change the heart of the outcome, but I think that's an interesting little piece there. And it says in verse 16 and 17, "So the Lord said to Moses, tell Aaron, raise your staff and strike the ground. The dust will turn to swarms of gnats throughout the land of Egypt." So Moses and Aaron did just as the Lord had commanded them. When Aaron raised his hand and struck the ground with his staff, gnats infested the entire land, covering the Egyptians and their animals. All the dust in the land of Egypt were turned into gnats. So this is a plague of gnats. I mean, it's so thick. I've always kind of pictured it as you breathe in, you suck a gnat into your mouth, right? You draw back, you draw breath to speak, a gnat goes in your mouth. Like you may have had that happen a few times over the years. I've had that happen, and you get a bug in your mouth, when you're talking, or you pull some breath in, something flies right by you, and you're spitting and spewing. It's very troubling. Imagine that happening constantly. That would be just ridiculous. So this swarm of gnats all over the animals and all over the people, including the priests, would have made them ceremonially unclean. The priests could not lead worship, and any sacrifices that they might want to offer to any of their gods would have been unacceptable because the sacrifices would have been covered with the gnats as well. So this, once again, is hitting at the core of their worship. It's hitting at the core of their, polytheistic religion. And it's just super annoying too. I mean, this will drive you out of your mind. So once again in this, I see a little bit of God's humor. Watch this, boys. I'm going to send you a plague of gnats. Think about it. In Okeechobee, I almost picture it as love bugs, the worst infestation of love bugs ever. I remember when I first moved to Okeechobee, and I moved in December. In May, love bugs hit like a storm, and I actually asked somebody if we had done something and if this was a biblical plague. So I kind of picture a little bit of that fashion, but it's a little humorous way to think about it. But God had a purpose in this. And we're going to see how this plague turns out real soon. You guys have a blessed day wherever you are.